Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk doesn't match Tyler Robinson's rifle. What's going on there? This just came out today. Apparently, the lawyers for representing Tyler Robinson are challenging this with the evidence stating that the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk did not match the rifle that he was using. Now, obviously, people like me and probably people that are going to see this post have been suspicious from this event from, the beginning, the very beginning of the day that this happened, September 10th, I believe it was, of last year. There was just there's suspicious thing after suspicious thing. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, I won't get fooled again. I won't get fooled again. There's just been a weird series of events from the beginning. And so, I put together a little list here of the weird series of events. I posted this on X, Twitter, whatever the kids call it these days. Follow me if you would like at Hot Take Tony 1. But here, let's go over this list. These are just some things I put together. Obviously, if I'm missing something or if I got something wrong, please feel free to tell me. Let me know in the comments. But here we go. So let me just open this up here. We're going to make this nice and big here. So here's some odd series of events, right? So right after he's murdered, right after the shooting, from the videos that people were taking that were in the front row, you saw TPUSA, you saw the staff just sitting around, literally in the line of fire. Now, they don't know, right? They don't know that this guy left. They don't know that he's gone now. I mean, you'd think, obviously, you'd be getting up out of there. You wouldn't be anywhere near the line of fire after that happened, after your coworker, your friend, your buddy got murdered, right? You don't know where the shot came from. You just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns at that point, right? And they didn't even have a suspect yet. And they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs. And then you got the one guy, I forgot his name, that worked for TPUSA, that's, getting the SD card. He's removing the SD card from the camera that was behind Charlie. There was a camera behind Charlie that they probably would have used for their videos that they would have put up had he lived, and that incident did not happen. But he took the SD card out of that. He made sure that he got that right away. So that was a bit odd, right? That was a bit odd. Then we go to number 2, right? The evidence surrounding Tyler Robinson in the first place was a bit dodgy. So he shoots from the roof. Then he disables the gun to get down from the roof, or I don't know if he did it to get down from the roof or to drive with it. Whatever the case was, he goes through the trouble of disabling the gun. Then he goes through the trouble of reassembling the gun to put it conveniently in the woods by the school and just put a little towel on it. That seems a bit convenient, but if that wasn't convenient enough for the FBI, he's also has very clear text messages to his significant other, the furry boy, woman, whatever they identify as, explaining every little thing step along the way that he did. That's very odd that you're going to put that in just regular text messages. It's not like they were using like Signal or anything like that. So that was a bit odd, right? That was a bit odd. The other thing, number 3, the location, the area that Charlie Kirk was in when he got murdered. Conveniently, they apparently had some planned construction or something, and they just paved concrete over the crime scene within a week. Sorry, construction was planned, guys. I guess laws and crime scenes of a big national event doesn't matter. We're just going to pave concrete over this whole thing. So any kind of, bullets that were left behind or any evidence, completely gone now. So that was completely gone. Then we discovered that there were 12 Israeli cell phones at the event. So we had 12 Israelis, that were pinging off towers. They knew that they were Israeli cell phones, 12 of them at the event. Hey, some Israelis like Charlie Kirk, no problem. But, a bit of a coincidence, to say the least, that these are, 12 people from a foreign country with foreign cell phones. If they were 12 Chinese cell phones, if they were 12 Iranian cell phones, I guarantee the conservative media would be very suspicious. But hey, they're 12 Israeli cell phones. Hey, nothing to see here, guys. Nothing to see here. They're Israelis. They're eating hummus. They're on their cell phone. They're schmitzing. They're discussing interest rates. Nothing to see here. And then number 5, Kash Patel. This was confirmed by Joe Kent, by the way. This was part of his whole resignation. He was very concerned. He wanted to find the truth behind what happened to Charlie Kirk, what really happened. And he himself has said that he's actually willing to testify at Tyler Robinson's trial because of all this suspicious evidence. So he confronted, remember, Kash Patel is the head of the FBI, so Kash Patel was leading the investigation of this crime, right? Of this incident, of this murder. And, evidence after evidence starts racking up. Hey, are we sure it's Tyler Robinson? This things are just not adding up. Things are looking weird. We need to investigate foreign intelligence and seeing if there was any foreign involvement in this incident. Well, Kash Patel, after he was approached to look into that, Kash Patel decided to end all investigation into foreign involvement. That's very weird. That's very odd. You'd think that if you really wanted to solve this crime, you would be open to investigating every possibility, every angle. Instead, it really seems like right from the beginning, they really just wanted to settle that it was Tyler Robinson. He acted alone. There was nothing else, no conspiracy, just some crazy radical leftist, right? Some crazy far left guy. He was angry at Charlie Kirk for all the things he was saying and blah, 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 right? That's the story that they want to go with. But then if that wasn't bad enough, and this was confirmed, I think, the end of last year, the judge of the case put a gag order on everybody who was there. So this was it was like 1,000 people or something at this event. If any of those people speak about what happened, they could be criminally charged. So that's odd. This was a very public event. It was a very public incident. And to put everybody that was there on a gag order, very, very unusual, right? So tons of mountains, really, at this point of suspicious activity. And again, now we have it confirmed that the bullet that went into Charlie didn't match Tyler Robinson's gun. So they better find a different gun that Tyler Robinson used. They better find a different one, because if the bullet that killed Charlie did not match Tyler Robinson's gun, then that means there was a different gun that fired the shot. So where is this mystery gun? Who is the mystery gunman? Because, again, evidence is evidence, right? If the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk did not match Tyler Robinson's gun, then it wasn't Tyler Robinson who killed him, unless Tyler Robinson had a different gun that they did not find. So, I don't know if this guy was Rambo. He had, he came up there with all the guns he could possibly need. But again, one thing after another has been very weird with this case. This is just another thing, and a lot of us who have really been kind of paying attention just don't believe the official story. Call me a conspiracy theorist. Disparage the rest of us. Disparage Candace Owens all you want. But it stuff just doesn't add up, right? So, what are we talking about? What are we talking about here? So, yeah, it's just my thing too was always from the very beginning of this incident. When it was they were accusing the far left right away, right? The thing that I thought was at least worth considering, I'm not saying it couldn't have been a far left person, but what I always thought was worth considering, what I found interesting, Charlie Kirk has been in the political world for like a decade, right? So I knew about him for a long time. I really wasn't a fan of his for a long time. I really didn't like the guy for a long time, just to be completely bluntly honest. Towards the end of his life, though, he did start shifting on some things and raising some interesting points, interesting questions. Right after October 7th, he was like, this is weird. Why? How did the Palestinians break through? Israel has the most secure border on the planet, but they somehow broke through that. Why were the Israeli soldiers that were guarding the border told to stand down? He was asking these questions. I'm not asking. He was asking these questions, right? And then after that, it just his questioning of Israel kept going further and further and further. And then obviously he's now having on people like Tucker Carlson, people like Dave Smith, who are extremely critical of Israel. He's hosting them on TPUSA, and his donors, the Zionist donors, are texting him. They're calling him. They're like, you can't have these people on. We're the ones paying for TPUSA. We're the ones that are running the show here, guys. You can't be having these anti-Israel people on. Your mission is actually to make young people more pro-Israel, not less pro-Israel. And to be fair to them, right, they were the ones funding him from the beginning. And he was extremely pro-Israel for 90% of his life, really, really up till the very, very close to the end there. And the more that, and this is the thing with the pro-Israel crowd and the Zionist, right? What they don't understand drives me crazy, because these are supposed to be, they always tout about how intelligent Israelis are, right? How intelligent. They're Nobel Peace Prize winners. They're scientists, they're scholars. They have the most strategic military in the world, blah, 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 blah. They're so smart. But what they don't understand, they can't grasp it. They can't grasp the simplicity of human psychology. Human psychology is actually very simple. It's actually very easy to understand the push and pull of human psychology. And human beings do not like being told what to do. They don't like being accused of something. And when you do that, when you constantly call them a name, eventually they, instead of just saying, hey, that's not me, I'm sorry you feel that, instead of trying to apologize, instead of trying to back down, they eventually just say, okay, I am that thing then. Okay. You're calling me a racist. Okay, I am that thing. You're calling me a sexist. Okay, I am that thing then. You're a transphobe. Okay, I am that thing then. You're an anti-Semite. Okay, I am an anti-Semite. Now what? Now what's your next move? You've put yourself in a corner. You put yourself in a box. Calling, this, and it's this weird thing that I find fascinating about the conservatives, right? And we see, and this is exactly why the fracture is there, because in the past 4 years, really I would say even 10 years, right? This whole woke thing, as they want to call it, right? And we all know what woke means. We don't have to rehash that, right? Cancel culture, woke stuff, that was all coming from the left. And conservatives were complaining about it. They were, we're not woke. We're facts don't care about your feelings, bro. Facts don't care about your feelings. We on our side, we're not scared of words. We can say whatever we want. We don't get offended by words. Nothing you can say can hurt me. That was their whole thing forever, right? And so what happens is you have this younger generation of the right, this Gen Z, who, these guys play Call of Duty. They play different things. They grew up in internet culture and trolling culture. So that has appeal to them. That is cachet. Hey, on one hand, we got the liberals who, are super sensitive. And even if I'm just joking around, I can't say certain things. I can't joke around with my friends. And then you have the conservatives. These guys are saying, hey, we're cool. We're chill. You could say whatever you want over here, bruh. Party it up, dude. Party it up, dude. Say whatever you want, brother. So the Gen Z is seeing that on the right. So they're like, hey, all right, we're voting for Trump in 2024. We must be conservative. We must be right wing. If these are the guys that know how to have a good time, if these are the guys that can say whatever they want, they can get down with the trolling and the offensive language and offensive memes and all that kind of stuff. That's where the fun is, right? And so, they basically take over a big coalition of the right, especially, and they help Trump win in 2024. But during this whole time in 2024, this whole issue of Israel is there, right? I mean, you've had this issue with Israel and Gaza, and I don't think that the Republican establishment, if you will, the neocons, who, by the way, never stopped running the show, despite Trump taking over in 2016 and them saying he shifted the conservative movement and all this, yada, yada, yada. The neocons still run the show. I hate to break it to you guys. I hate to break it to you folks. If they didn't, we would not be in Iran. That has been a wet dream of the neocons for 20 years, probably more than 20 years, but since my memory, for 20 years. So we would not be in Iran if the neocons were not running the show. Marco Rubio is King Neocon. He makes Dick Cheney look like Mr. Rogers, okay? Marco Rubio is Satan, dude. This dude, well, there is no country that is too sacred to not be invaded to Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, it's one thing, before we were really only overthrowing countries in the Middle East. Now this dude is overthrown countries in the Middle East, countries in South America, countries in Asia. Marco Rubio really does want to be emperor of the world. So the neocons still run the show. Anyway, back to my point. The neocons loved to have the Gen Z vote. They loved to have the Gen Z support. And they did get that partly from Charlie and some of these other younger guys being affiliated with the movement. J.D. Vance, they say, was used to help get the Gen Z vote. And then you had the podcast bros all get down and all that kind of stuff, right? The problem was those people actually like saying offensive things. They like partaking in that. They like truly being able to say what they want without anybody, pressing back on them. But what the neocons are fine with bashing, black people, Mexicans, Muslims, gays, trans, you go down the list. The neocons are fine with you bashing, pretty much everybody, but Israel. I would say Jews, but they actually, if you're just, talking against Jews, they don't care that much. But if you're criticizing Israel, you are an anti-Semite, sir. You are a Nazi. And so that's really where the fission started. You know, if the neocons never started trying to cancel the woke right, which is laughable. It's a laughable name in itself, because what is more woke than believing a people should have their own country paid for by the rest of the world because they are victims? Isn't that a woke thing, trying to right the wrongs of the victims and trying to benefit them economically to pay for the sins of us, putting them under victimhood? Isn't that like part of the woke ideology that they were all criticizing? Hey, this group is disenfranchised, so we need this policy to help bring them up, to equalize them. That was the whole like woke thing, right? But when you're doing that with Israelis, because the Jewish people have been persecuted in the past, so you're using that justification to spend billions of dollars on giving them an ethno-state, isn't that pretty woke? That sounds pretty woke to me. How is that any different than trying to justify reparations or any kind of policy that would solely benefit a disenfranchised group? You guys were all against that for any other group, but for Israel, for the Jewish people, because they were victims, it justifies spending billions of dollars a year to give them their own state. So to me, that is probably the wokest policy that's ever been passed, ever been created, right? That is, that's super woke to me, if you ask me, right? So, getting back to Gen Z, right, in this whole division, if they just gave up on the Israel thing, the neocons could realign the party. They could unite the party. They could unite the right like that in a second. All they would have to do is just give up Israel, right? So, and then MAGA, which is really just the neocons, right? There is no, the MAGA of 2016 is long gone. MAGA originally was America First. They were no foreign wars, economic populism. That's what MAGA used to be. And then real MAGA people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, so on and so forth, got pushed out, and then they welcomed in Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, all of whom were never Trumpers in 2016. So they're MAGA, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, who fought and defended Trump till the bitter end when he was going through his whole thing after Jan 6, she's not MAGA, right? And it's all because of Israel. So, it's everything's backwards, but and again, I'm not on the right, so maybe it's not my place to offer my what's the word I'm looking for? Offer my strategy, offer my what the hell is the word that I am looking for? Offer any insight, whatever. You know what I mean? It may not be my place, but it just seems silly to me. Hey, the neocon right, the MAGA right, is complaining about the America First right. Oh, they're just, they just don't want to. They want to just start shit for no reason. They want to get the Democrats elected. They don't want to unite. These people are Nazis. They're anti-Semites. Blah blah blah. You guys could dominate politics if you gave up Israel. That's all you would have to do. So my question to you is, if you know that you could never lose an election again, but all you had to do is give up Israel, and you refuse to do that, and you think, remember, these are people who believe conservative values and the Republican policies are what's best for America. So if you truly believe that, and you could win if you abandoned your Israel loyalty, but you refuse to do it, it does seem weird that you won't. It seems like you would rather sacrifice the election to the Democrats and the leftists and the Marxists, because you'd rather give the left power than denounce Israel. It's just it's very bizarre to me, very, very bizarre. But yeah, that's all today. So you guys have a lovely rest of your day.